Welcome to Madeira, island of eternal springtime. A floating garden in the Atlantic with colourful flowers, wild beauty and exotic scents. Funchal is the capital. From the beginning, a feudal lord resided in the Palacio de San Lorenzo, along with the military, and later the governor of the island. Zarco came on behalf of Portugal. And in 1493, King Manuel I founded the cathedral that is located in the main street. In lush Moorish style. The town's black and white paved main square is framed by three important historic buildings: the Jesuit College, City Hall and the Bishop's Palace. The Jesuit church is adorned with a magnificent facade. The splendor of the interior is in stark contrast to the simplicity of the exterior. The Museum of Religious Art is to be found in the former Bishop's Palace. The sugar trade with Antwerp meant that paintings and other works of art could be used as payment. Madeira has long been famous for its wine, stored in wooden barrels to mature and then exported all over the world. In the old rooms of a former monastery, it is pressed, matured and celebrated. The Avenida do Mar is located on the same main artery and boulevard. Along the waterfront are fishing boats and yachts from around the world. High above the harbour is the Parque de Santa Catarina, with a romantic pool and fountain surrounded by exotic trees and flower beds. In the central Mercado dos Lavradores, fish, fruit and vegetables, and particularly flowers, are on sale. The remains of a mighty castle tower above the upper town, and below Funchal extends within a picturesque bay. The upper town was once a vibrant area of the city. Originally, Zarco built a chapel in this location on the site of the Convento Santa Clara. And his granddaughter became the first abbess. Barely a stone's throw away is the magnificent manor house of Quinta das Cruzes. This is where Captain Zarco retired following Madeira's colonization. A popular tourist attraction is a ride on the impressive ship the Santa Maria de Colombo. Christopher Columbus' famous ship was rebuilt as an authentic reproduction in 1998 by Robert Wintier in the fishing village of Camara de Lobos. The highlight of this short adventure is when the wind fills the billowing sails and creates the natural power to take us through the water. A journey into the 15th century. A cable car travels from the east end of Avenida do Mar up to Monte, a place of pilgrimage high above Funchal. The cable car floats silently over the houses and gardens. Just a few minutes from the mountain station is the entrance to the Jardim Monte Palace, with an oriental area and plants from numerous subtropical countries. 60 species of cycads, laurel and oil trees make it look rather like a jungle. In between emerge Portuguese azulejos, which lead like a marker to a pond, fountain, waterfall and manor house. The pilgrim church of Nossa Senhora do Monte is perched on top of a hillside. Karl von Habsburg, the last Austrian emperor, rests within a simple metal coffin in a side chapel. But the Monte Church is also known for the worship of the Mother of God and its Madonna statue. Just below the church is the starting point to the city's most imaginative tourist attraction, a ride on the Carreiras da Funchal. The traditional straw-hatted, white-clad men push, pull and slide basket vehicles along the steep and narrow streets down to the city. The small fishing village of Camara de Lobos is west of Funchal on the south coast. It was made famous by Winston Churchill, who sat here and painted the small harbour. Colourful fishing boats lie picturesquely in the tiny sheltered bay. Drying in the sun, a number of cat sharks dangle on poles, and the nightly catch is processed in the morning right here in the harbour. Few fish are to be found close to the coast. Further west is Ribeira Brava, a coastal site at the mouth of the Wild River, once inhabited by merchants. From here, everything was shipped to Funchal. Former merchant shops now sell souvenirs, and the old watchtower is a tourist information centre. In the morning there are many tourists, but it will soon be quiet again. A winding road leads to Ponta do Sol, which is also located on an estuary. It prospered due to sugarcane and bananas. At that time there were no made-up roads, but in 1850 a wharf was built, and this soon expanded trade. Landward, the city clings to a canyon, and a steeple rises above the buildings. Nearby are banana plantations laid out in neat terraces. The Ponta do Pago lighthouse is the westernmost point of Madeira and guides ships safely around the island. The view is quite outstanding. The cliffs plunge down more than 100 meters to where the waves break with a tremendous salty fanfare. The route to Madeira's heartland leads to the island's mountains. It's becoming colder, and wisps of cloud hang in the trees. And slowly, the vegetation changes. The Paul da Serra Plateau is reminiscent of Scotland, with high moor landscapes and sparse vegetation, robust plants, grasses, gorse and ferns. At 1,400 meters above sea level, snow falls in winter and fog is a constant companion. Paul da Serra is the island's water reservoir. Cows graze in the solitude of the scant plateau, whose prolific vegetation was once the victim of radical charcoal extraction. From Rabasal, there's a path along the Levada to Risco. The whole environment here is moist and a paradise for mosses and ferns. It was North African slaves whose knowledge of complex irrigation techniques from their homeland came in very useful for the construction of the first levadas. Canal construction was a hazardous business. The water in the mountainous interior of the island had to be directed down the slopes to the arid desert regions of the south. At the beginning of a valley, São Vicente lies hidden beyond the steep slopes of the northern coastline. The tastefully restored centre of the village contains a 17th century church with a Baroque interior. There are gilded carvings on the altar, tile pictures and paintings. São Vicente looks like something from a picture postcard. The town is particularly well known for its grutas, Madeira's only accessible cave system, which also indicates its geological past. Here, volcanic tubes formed around 400,000 years ago, when the lava had solidified on the surface, with glowing red-hot magma within. The westernmost area on the northern coast is Porto Muniz. Since 1533, a Portuguese, Muniz, managed his lands from here that had been bestowed on him by the king. At only a few places such as this were there enough space to build habitable settlements. For a long time, Madeira's wild north was only really accessible from the sea. But now several roads travel through the region's villages, whose authenticity has been well preserved. The extreme west of the island boasts an attraction that is hard to beat. At an amazingly acute angle, the gondola from the mountain station below the village of Acharas da Cruz travels 300 meters down to the coast and back. This most beautiful Baroque church on the north coast was established in São Jorge. Its external simplicity gives little hint of its internal beauty. Gilded wood carvings and illusionist paintings adorn the church and its altar. The village is situated within the vineyards and indicates daily life here. Settlement is one of the oldest on the north coast. In the northeast is the tourist centre of Santana, with its straw-roofed houses, beautiful flowers, and streets lined with patterned cobblestones. New buildings were adapted to harmonise with the existing ones, and hardly disturb the tourist image of the old-world straw-covered buildings. There are several casas de como, colourful buildings with steep straw roofs on both sides, reaching down to the ground. Over 1,800 metres high are the weathered remains of the ancient volcanic cone that today forms Madeira's central mountains. At 1,818 meters above sea level, Pico do Arreiro is the third highest mountain on the island. From here, the formation of Madeira is plain to see. Madeira was created by a natural disaster millions of years ago, by volcanic eruptions which began up to 4,000 meters deep on the ocean floor. Repeatedly, more and more lava piled up higher and higher until it emerged from the ocean and Madeira and Porto Santo were created. The bizarre rock formations of basalt glow red-yellow and red-brown in the sunshine and provide stark contrast to the sparse green vegetation. Walkers must travel up and down narrow paths and steep inclines, usually accompanied by cloud and mist that disappears almost as soon as it's appeared. A paradise for walkers. Amid a fertile terraced landscape is the picturesque centre of Faial, with its modest parish church, the annual destination of a major pilgrimage. The village exudes tranquility, and both the landscape and the local people have retained their original character. Following a devastating fire in 1960, the church had to be completely rebuilt, and the courtyard was designed as a lookout balcony. Porto da Cruz is located directly by the sea. Its name dates back to the early settlers who erected a cross in the harbour. In the extreme east of the north coast, several creeks flow into the sea, and sugarcane was once cultivated here. Before there were roads in Madeira, Porto da Cruz was still a busy place, as its harbour and several sugar factories were in operation. Since then, much has changed, and hardly anything is reminiscent of its prosperous past. At harvest time, one sugar mill is still active. In April and May, almost round-the-clock sugarcane is delivered from the surrounding area. The leaves are removed from the cane, which is cut down to the stem. Next, they travel through huge rollers, in which they're repeatedly crushed. The sweet juice is fermented, and after distillation, becomes clear rum. Sugar syrup is also produced here, and outside the factory, new batches of sugarcane arrive constantly. The road to the east coast leads via Camacha, a village of basket makers, 700 meters above sea level, and its proximity to Funchal led several wealthy Englishmen to build villas here. At the end of the 19th century, the English set up basket production here, which employed a large part of the village's population. In early 1998, a large new church was inaugurated, which at first sight looks rather incongruous, but possesses excellent acoustics. Suddenly, basketry was in much demand, and Camacha provided it. Small willow trees grow here, and the locals have skillful hands. Back on the south coast are the Pelheiro Gardens, known for their many varieties of splendid plants, and also for their scenic beauty, set as they are in the captivating hills of Funchal. Around 200 years ago, Conde de Carvalhal planted the first trees here. English and French landscape architects added their expertise, and now visitors can enjoy the vivid splendor of these marvelous gardens. Certain themes were introduced, such as the sunken garden and garden lady. The Jardin Botanico is located on a hillside above Funchal. It once belonged to the Reed family. A colourful garden of the senses. On its sunny south-facing terraces are colourful flowers and plant beds laid out in geometrical patterns, giving the impression of large rugs. In 1952, the municipality acquired this huge private property and transformed it into a veritable botanical Garden of Eden. A paradise for plant lovers. From the port of Funchal, there's a regular ferry service to Porto Santo. After about 2 hours' drive, a modern ferry gradually makes its way to the harbour. First impressions are good. A wonderful golden yellow sandy beach and painted jetties in the harbour. Even today, Vila Madeira is the capital of the island which Captain Zarco entered prior to Madeira and claimed as a Portuguese colony in 1419. The main square of the old town hall is in Renaissance style, and the Baroque church has been well preserved. Only its pillory was demolished. It's quite easy to imagine how it looked when Christopher Columbus arrived here in 1478 and was a guest of the son of the first governor of the island. Columbus fell in love with his host's daughter, Filipa Moniz, and duly married her. With the marriage, he climbed the much-prized social ladder of Portuguese society. The first settlers were welcomed by a green, forested island, but the trees were cut down and the island became desolate. A number of windmills recall the time when wheat was grown and grain was milled here. Porto Santo is a wonder of sand and rock. By ferry, we return to the main island of Madeira, and passengers look at the slowly vanishing coastline. To the east of Madeira is the natural bay of Machico, the oldest settlement on the island. Today, Madeira's third largest city extends from the coast to the hills of the wide and fertile valley of the Machico River, whose inhabitants live from the cultivation of fruit, vineyards and fishing. The Lago do Municipio once played a large part in the area's history. The quality of its sugarcane made the local medieval feudal system possible. Close by is the eastern section of the island, Ponta de São Lourenço, and the massive cliffs of the Eastern Cape. In stunning contrast, red-brown rocks and the blue tint of the sea, a bizarre world of volcanic rock and raging elements. Jewels of nature, these extraordinary landscapes and exotic fragrances have been captivating visitors for centuries.